Hey guys, in this video we are going to make a stone material on a ground base and height blend them into a final cobblestone like floor material. So let's get started. Let's start with the Voronoi node. Connecting it to our rod should automatically convert into grayscale. Let's play with the settings later on, but for now add an edge detect. We'll use the stroke and increase the roundness for the corners. Let's tighten our gaps using a distance node. Then let's just bevel it and we'll use the softness. That looks alright for the base. Let's use the flood fill node and we'll use the flood fill to color. We'll use the cloud noise to control the randomization. We'll use the distance node to get rid of the black lines in between. Let's use the levels node to control the final output and connect it back to our original pattern, and we have control over some random height for each stone basically. Next we'll use the flood fill to gradient and just use random rotations, and we'll just blend them using the minimum blend mode. This is the same method we used for all our tiles in our previous tutorials. It's a pretty common way to do it. And we have the corners mashed out, and we'll just use the multiply to get some corner damage going on. Okay, the base pattern looks pretty good. Let's add some surface variations. Start off with a slope blur, and we'll use clouds noise for the height. Next I'm just using the cellular noise and slow blurring that as well. For some fine details, I'll use the clouds noise and get a little bit of surface variation. Next, I'm just going to use the slope warp and get some extra wear. That should do it. We'll just finish it off with an auto levels node. You can experiment with some other noises or different warps to get some better surface variation going, and that should do it for the height map. Next up, roughness. For this I'm gonna keep it pretty simple. We'll just use the levels node to invert it and make the crevices a bit rough, and as usual I just blend it with the spot 7 to get some random variation going on. It's my favorite node to use for that. And finally just levels to control the final output. That kind of looks like stone, so let's just go with that. Now I'm just gonna go for the base color. We'll start off with the curvature map and a gradient map. For the colors, I'm trying to use some desaturated values with bluish or purple tint. Okay, next up let's take the convex output from the curvature map and use the levels to control it better. We're looking to get the highlights masked out and we'll blend it and use the opacity mask and just use a lighter color in soft light blend mode. That should work. Next, let's add some ambient occlusion. We will use a levels to invert it and adjust the mask. Just change it to a darker color and multiply that. Next, we just want some variation in color, so I'm just gonna go with the artistic, play with the levels, and we're gonna slow blur it, and it's gonna give an interesting painterly effect. We're gonna keep the cloud noise pretty high and the intensity fairly high, and that should give us the look that we want. Let's use that to the opacity mask. We'll keep it pretty low. We want to keep the effect pretty subtle. Next, I want to use the ambient occlusion and use the same slope blur method, and that should emphasize the painterly look near the crosses and gives an interesting look. I'm just gonna use the slightly saturated dark blue for this. And for some more random variation, I'll use the brushstrokes pattern, play around to get something interesting. And we're just gonna low blur it, and we're gonna keep the intensity pretty high. Connect that, and that should give us some variation, and we'll keep this pretty low as well. Next, I'm just gonna use the HSL node to control the overall look. This is just because I'm too lazy to go back and adjust every single color again. And just play around till you get something that you like. That should do it for our stones. Let's move on to creating in the ground material. I'm just going to duplicate the material made. I'm gonna use the clouds, and we'll get our basic setup to view the material. I will blur the clouds to get some larger bumps and blend it with another clouds to get some finer noise details. Most of this is going to be covered by the rock, so I'm not putting a lot of effort into it. We just want some variations. Next, for the roughness, I'm just gonna use the same setup that we used earlier for the stones and blend it with the spot 7 to get some variation going on. That should do it. Then we'll just use the levels to control the final result. Okay, that looks fine. Let's work on the base color. I'm just using height, curvature, and auto levels to get the maximum range and a gradient map. Going for some yellowish tones. Again, I'm not that good with colors. I'm just trying out some random stuff here. We are doing the ambient occlusion, but on this material, it's barely visible. So you can skip it, but for now this will just add some extra variation. Next, I'm just duplicating the nodes that we used earlier to create that painterly look. And we will blend it with a different color. Also duplicate the brushstrokes pattern for some additional variation. I'm liking the variation in color, but I'm not really liking the tones, so I'm just trying out some blend modes with some different colors to get the look that I want. This is a pretty lazy way of doing it, but it works for me. You can fine-tune it better to your liking. Alright, that should do it for the base color for this. And it looks alright. We don't need it to look super good because most of it will be covered by the rocks anyway. Now that we have the two materials next to each other, we can just blend them. Let's move on to that. Alright, let's add the material blend height to combine the two. We have all the inputs to connect all the maps from the two materials and the output maps that it spits out based on the parameters that we can adjust over here. Instead of connecting each individual input, InstaMAT makes it easy with the link category mode on the top here. Now we have all the individual outputs and inputs collapsed into a single material socket. Connect these to the material blend. You can unlink to see that everything is connected correctly. The main thing we are looking for here is the bottom and top offset. By adjusting this, we can get the result that we want. That's all we need for this, but you can play around with the other values. Also, we have the blend mask and the intersection mask that you can make use of later. The material looks good now, but the only problem is the output ambient occlusion map. You can see the cutoff where the two materials are meeting. To fix this, let's add a material make and link that. Now we just need to fix our ambient occlusion. Use a height to ambient occlusion with the new height map. Connect the new ambient occlusion to the material make. And as you can see, we have the ambient occlusion map working just fine now. That will be all for this material. If you made it this far, hope you found the video helpful. Leave a like and subscribe for more. And as always, thank you for watching.